Imagine waking up to a world where every egg you scramble, every roast chicken you enjoy, is part of a quiet energy revolution. It's happening right now in the rolling fields of the UK, not in tech startups or sprawling wind farms, but inside chicken barns. Farms that once relied entirely on the national grid are now becoming miniature power plants, slashing both bills and carbon emissions, and the numbers behind this transformation are staggering. But behind the headlines, poultry supplier cuts 670 tons of carbon, lurks a tangled web of incentives, technological breakthroughs, and new conflicts over land and economics. The question isn't just how solar is powering poultry, it's whether this experiment could reshape Britain's energy future and what stands in its way. Let's step back and see how a farm's quest for sustainability might tip the scales of the whole UK energy mix. For decades, the United Kingdom has been at the front line of the world's push toward net zero carbon emissions. The government's pledge to hit net zero by 2050 isn't just a political slogan. It's driving real investment, regulatory changes, and a reckoning across sectors that once seemed immune to the winds of change. Among these, agriculture stands out, responsible for around 10% of the UK's total emissions, yet notoriously difficult to decarbonize. Think about it. The traditional poultry farm is a complex beast, powered by relentless lighting, heating, ventilation, water systems, and automated feeders. Energy costs can eat up over 15% of total expenses in a bad year. When fossil fuel prices spike, as they did dramatically in the past decade, farmers feel the pain instantly. But there's a twist. Solar power, once a distant dream for rural businesses, is becoming a game changer. In the past 10 years, the levelized cost of solar PV electricity has nosedived by over 85%. Solar panels are now cheaper, more efficient, and more versatile than ever before. According to Andy Kahn of Push Power Limited, custom-designed solar projects can now pay for themselves within just a few years. The days of rooftop panels being just for warehouses are over. Agricultural operations are hungry for this technology. Government backing is turbocharging the transition. The Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, now dangles lucrative carrots like the Farming Equipment and Technology Fund, FETF, that subsidizes solar PV installs for agricultural holdings. The Smart Export Guarantee, SEG, means farms actually get paid for exporting their excess solar energy back into the grid, sometimes making more on a sunny day than they'd spend on energy all week. Suddenly, every sunlit roof or spare field is a financial opportunity. And with the National Farmers Union committed to net zero agriculture by 2040, 10 years ahead of the national pledge, the pressure is on. Minette Batters, president of the NFU, summed it up. Solar lets us cut our carbon and diversify our incomes. In years of drought or market volatility, that can spell survival. But let's get specific. Take the Gressingham Foods project, one of the UK's most ambitious poultry solar installations. Push Power Limited recently completed a staggering 3.2 megawatt solar PV system for Gressingham, blanketing barn roofs with 5,100 solar panels. The expected impact? Over 670 tons of carbon emissions avoided in the first year alone. That's equivalent to taking 150 cars off the road, except it's all happening while chickens go about their daily routines under a sun-fueled microgrid. But the Gressingham story is just one shining example. Across the country, dozens of poultry farms are racing to install solar and battery systems. Why poultry? Chicken barns are perfectly suited to solar. They have massive south-facing roofs and consistent power needs around the clock. It's almost as if nature designed them for the solar age. Fiona Wilson, head of sustainability at Gressingham Foods, put it plainly. We can't meet our goals without solar. It's cutting our footprint, plain and simple. But it's also protecting us from wild price swings in energy. Yet beneath this optimism, old challenges persist. For many family-run or mid-sized farms, the upfront price tag is daunting. Even with costs dropping and government grants, a large solar array can cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. While the payback period is getting shorter, sometimes dropping to 6 or 7 years for large-scale sites, it's still a major leap of faith for businesses operating on tight margins. What about the technology itself? The story here is no less dramatic. New solar cells aren't just cheaper, they're vastly more powerful. Perovskite silicon tandem cells, for instance, are breaking efficiency records above 30% in the lab. According to Dr. Emily Carter of Princeton University, If perovskite cells scale the way silicon did, solar could leap ahead in cost and deployment speed. That's a revolution we haven't fully appreciated yet. Meanwhile, battery storage costs have plummeted 70% since 2015, changing the game for farms trying to bank sunlight for nighttime or cloudy days. Flow batteries, robust, safer, and lasting for decades, are on the horizon, promising even more resilience for rural grids. So what's the catch? With all this promise, why isn't every farm already solar-powered? Well, not all land and barns are equal. Siting a massive solar array requires the right mix of available space, sun exposure, grid connection, and agricultural compatibility. On top of that, land in the UK is precious, and every acre covered with solar panels is one less for growing crops or grazing livestock. This tension has sparked fierce debate. Are we solving one crisis, climate change, by creating another? Competition over scarce land? Enter agri-PV, the next wave of solar innovation. Instead of replacing crops or animals, agri-PV integrates solar panels with farming activities. Imagine panels elevated so that chickens can scratch beneath them, or rows spaced to allow tractors and farmhands to work as usual. Dr. Sarah Jones, University of Exeter, is a strong proponent. With agri-PV, we're not making farmers choose between food and energy, we're doubling up. Still, implementation lags. Agri-PV is new, untested at scale in the UK, and comes with higher installation costs. The regulatory environment is another thicket. Planning permissions, grid connection applications, and local opposition can stall projects for months or years. The Renewable Energy Association warns that only consistent, clear support from policymakers will unlock the full potential. And despite all the advances, there are risks on the horizon. The national grid is not always ready for a flood of decentralized rural solar power. In some regions, connection queues are years long, and while the government has committed $60 million to battery research, widespread deployment of next-generation storage is still years away. What does this all add up to? On paper, a radical transformation. Some experts predict solar could supply up to 60% of a large poultry farm's energy needs and slash sector-wide emissions by 30 to 40% by 2040. Energy cost savings of 15 to 25% aren't just wishful thinking, they're happening today. But the future hangs in a delicate balance between technology, finance, land, and regulation. So we have a puzzle. Farms are eager, panels are ready, costs keep falling, yet solar is far from universal. What will tip the scales? Will new battery breakthroughs resolve the intermittency problem? Can government incentives and land-smart designs make financing accessible for every farm, not just the giants? Or will local conflicts and policy ambiguity slow the revolution, leaving the UK's energy transition incomplete? As the sun rises over another flock of chickens, the answer is anything but simple. In the next part, we'll dive deep into the battlegrounds, the real economics, the emerging technologies, and the make-or-break policy choices that will decide whether the UK's poultry sector becomes a model for the world or a cautionary tale. Stay tuned. So, we left off with the question hanging in the air. Will solar energy really become the new normal for UK poultry farms, or will obstacles, technological, economic, or political, slow down the revolution? To find an answer, we need to look not just at what's happening now, but at the future, the possibilities, the risks, and the breakthroughs that could tip the scales. Imagine, for a moment, standing in the middle of a modern poultry farm in 2035. Above you, not just roofs, but fields of shimmering solar panels, some floating over open land, others forming elegant canopies above green pastures. Chickens cluck contentedly below, shaded and protected, while silent batteries the size of shipping containers tucked away nearby store enough energy to run the entire operation through the night. It's not science fiction, it's a scenario that experts are quietly betting on. But let's be honest, the road from today's patchwork of solar installations to that bright vision isn't a straight line. There are forks, hurdles, and even a few potholes that could slow things down or send us in a different direction. On the optimistic side, the stars are aligning. The price of solar panels has dropped more than 85% over the past decade, a figure that would have seemed outlandish to industry insiders just a few years ago. Battery storage, once the sticking point, is rapidly catching up. Since 2015, costs have plunged by 70%. Technologies that used to exist only in the lab, like perovskite silicon tandem cells boasting record-breaking 30% efficiency rates, are now being tested for commercial use. If these advances filter down to everyday farms, the math could become irresistible. Dr. Emily Carter, a world authority on solar innovation, puts it this way: the next decade in solar isn't just about adding more panels. It's about smarter, more efficient, and integrated systems that fit agriculture like a glove. But technology alone won't tip the balance. Policy remains a critical wildcard. The UK government has set bold targets: 70 gigawatts of solar capacity by 2035 and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. For the poultry sector, this isn't just a nice idea, it's a looming deadline. Incentives like the Farming Equipment and Technology Fund, FETF, and the Smart Export Guarantee, SEG, are encouraging, but in the words of the Renewable Energy Association, clear policy frameworks and stable, long-term support are what farmers need most. If politicians continue to back these policies, ramp up grants, and streamline planning approvals, solar could outpace even the most optimistic forecasts. Farms like Gressingham Foods are already showing what's possible. Their 3.2 megawatt solar array, with over 5,100 panels, will cut their carbon emissions by more than 670 tons this year alone. That's the equivalent of taking around 150 cars off the road every single year. But lurking beneath the excitement are risks and unanswered questions. Will global supply chain disruptions make solar panels or batteries scarce or expensive again? Might future governments shift funding priorities? Land use conflicts could intensify as demand for renewable energy and food production both grow. And there's still skepticism from some farmers, especially those on smaller holdings or tight margins, who worry about the upfront investment and long-term maintenance. Let's not forget another subtle transformation on the horizon: agri-PV systems, where solar panels and crops or livestock coexist. Dr. Sarah Jones of the University of Exeter is a champion of this trend. We're learning that you don't have to choose between food and energy, she says. With thoughtful design, farms can actually get the best of both: energy on the roof, crops, or chickens underneath. Early trials suggest farms could generate up to 60% of their total energy needs on-site, year-round, without reducing yields. This could rewrite the rules of land use across the countryside. Now, if we take a step back and sketch out the three big scenarios for the future, they look something like this. First, the breakthrough scenario. Battery technology advances further, making storage cheap and reliable. The government doubles down on support, and agri-PV systems multiply. By 2040, solar powers the majority of UK poultry farms, slashing emissions industry-wide by up to 40%. Energy bills drop by a quarter, and farmers become net exporters of power back to the grid during peak times. Second, the stagnation scenario. Progress slows. Economic downturns or policy reversals sap funding. Farmers hesitate, unsure about payback periods and future regulations. Solar grows, but only in fits and starts, leaving the sector short of net zero goals and exposed to volatile energy prices. Third, the hybrid scenario. Some regions and larger innovative farms leap ahead, while others lag behind. Solar becomes common, but not universal, and a patchwork persists across the UK, driven more by local incentives and entrepreneurial spirit than by coordinated national policy. Which scenario wins out? It's impossible to say, but it's likely that the real outcome will reflect a messy blend, shaped by technology, policy, and the willingness of individual farmers to adapt. So, what does all this mean for you, the viewer, whether you're a farmer, a consumer, an investor, or just someone who cares about the future of food and energy? First, if you're closely involved in agriculture, this is a moment of historic opportunity. Early adopters of solar aren't just ticking a sustainability box, they're gaining a long-term edge in energy costs, future-proofing their businesses, and often accessing new revenue streams by selling surplus power back to the grid. Farms with solar installations report saving 15 to 25% on their annual energy bills, and the value of battery storage means they're less exposed to spikes in electricity prices. For small and medium-sized operations, the barriers are real, but not insurmountable. Innovative financing packages, government grants, and group purchasing schemes are making the upfront costs more manageable. Industry leaders like Andy Kahn of Push Power Limited emphasize that the smartest projects are those custom designed to fit a farm's actual needs and budget, not just off-the-shelf solutions. That means there's room for creativity, negotiation, and teamwork. If you're a consumer, your choices matter more than you think. Supermarkets and major food brands are increasingly demanding lower carbon supply chains, and poultry is no exception. By supporting products with clear sustainability credentials and asking questions about how your food is produced, you help drive the market towards better practices. The next time you see solar-powered chicken in the shop, remember, that's not just a marketing gimmick, but a sign of real, boots-on-the-ground transformation in the supply chain. Investors, too, are watching the poultry solar nexus closely. With the cost of capital for renewables at an all-time low, and the direction of travel clear from policy leaders, farms that adopt solar are increasingly seen as safer, more stable investments. That can mean better rates on loans, more favorable lease terms, and the chance to participate in the growing UK clean energy market. But the lessons go even deeper. The solar story in poultry farming is a microcosm of a bigger shift, our energy and food systems becoming more local, resilient, and sustainable. Every solar panel on a barn roof is a tiny act of energy independence, proof that innovation isn't just happening in city labs or government offices, but on real farms in the British countryside. If there's a practical takeaway here, it's that waiting for perfect technology or perfect policy is a losing game. The biggest leaps come when pioneers try new approaches, learn from early mistakes, and share their results. As Fiona Wilson of Gressingham Foods put it in a recent interview, "Our solar journey wasn't easy, but each challenge taught us something valuable about our own energy use, about what matters to our customers, and about contributing to something bigger." For those considering making the switch, here are a few concrete steps. Start by understanding your farm's actual energy use and needs. An honest energy audit can reveal low-hanging fruit for efficiency and clarify what scale of solar would make sense. Don't go it alone. Talk to others who've installed solar, join farmer networks, and seek out experts who offer tailored advice. The landscape is changing fast, and lessons learned from the first wave of projects can save time and money. Explore all available grants, incentives, and partnership models. The UK's Smart Export Guarantee and FETF grants are just the tip of the iceberg. Some local councils and utility providers offer additional support. Think beyond just your own operation. Solar is most powerful when it's part of a bigger community push. Joint investments, energy co-ops, and new agri-PV approaches can amplify results and share the benefits and the risks. And if you're not ready to make the leap now, keep an eye on the technology. New breakthroughs in flow batteries and perovskite panels are coming fast, and the costs will only continue to fall. As we reach the finale, it's time to circle back and answer that question from the start. What will ultimately determine whether solar energy becomes the norm on UK poultry farms? It won't be just one thing, not a single policy, not the next shiny invention, not a wave of cash from government or investors. The real answer lies in the convergence of three forces: relentless technological progress, policies that offer stability and vision, and above all, the courage of everyday farmers willing to try something new and learn as they go. If the sector can harness all three, the UK's vision for net zero agriculture could become a reality far sooner than anyone predicts. If not, progress could stall, and the opportunity of a generation may slip quietly away. And now for that secret fact we promised. Did you know that a single 1 megawatt solar array, the kind you might see on a large poultry farm, can produce enough electricity to power almost 200 homes? That's the scale of change that's possible, one farm at a time. So, what's your role in this story? Whether you're a farmer, investor, policymaker, or simply someone who cares about where your food and your energy comes from, your choices matter. Share this video with someone who needs to see it, subscribe for more deep dives into the future of farming and energy, and leave a comment with your thoughts or questions below. The solar revolution in British agriculture isn't just a headline,